We got a whole lot of catching up to do on today's anime. Due to some tragic events over the course of the last few days, I have not been working on this. Due to those same tragic events, Fire Force has been postponed this week. I pretty much saw that coming. But, we're going to move past that and try to talk about the anime that are airing, because the show must go on. It's my job. So first up, there was So Nan Desu Ka, which continues to be a fun, good time. Still enjoying it. Still think that the characters are entertaining. Not much has changed about this show, so there's not much to say. Meanwhile, Tejina-senpai, or Magical Senpai, has continued to be kind of stagnant and not as fun. I did finally crack the code on why this girl is so hot, and it's because she just looks like she's getting fucked all the time. Her facial expression always looks like a porn facial expression. And, it honestly increases the enjoyability of the show considerably, even when the jokes are very hit or miss. Mostly miss in the last episode. So this one's definitely on the chopping block. Just the fact that it's so short makes it hard to just, outright drop. But, if episode 4 is not funny, if they don't finally start introducing more interesting characters, I think it's probably going to be a drop. Dumbbell Nankilo Moteru continues to be, again, just kind of exactly like I've said about previous episodes. This one did introduce a fun new character, the teacher who ends up going to the same gym as the other girls. She's also secretly a cosplay diva. There's a pretty hilarious scene where they go to Kamike and the instructor guy is doing a Fist of the North Star cosplay, except it's, what was it called? Lift of Just Bar or something like that? Lifter of Just Bar. I don't remember what it was called. Straight Bar. Something like that. It's basically a bodybuilding version of Fist of the North Star. That leads to a pretty fun scene. But, so far, yeah, Dumbbell is a pretty goofy manga. It still isn't really going towards anything. It's mostly just the fun of seeing the cute girls, hearing their cute voices, learning some workouts if you don't already know them, and working out along with the show. I, again, would recommend, if you are watching this show and you are trying to take it seriously as workout advice, to, at the very least, watch Jax Blade's videos, because I know he had some contentions with some of the wisdom in this episode. I mean, a lot of stuff when it comes to fitness is contentious. A lot of people have different opinions about, the way things are, but for me, it was basically just an easy, watchable time. Not something I've really been putting that much thought into or anything like that. Next up was Given, which continues to be sort of the sleeper hit of the season in my eyes. It's got just such good character interactions. Somebody was asking me how I could say that the chemistry was good between the main characters when the mainest guy, I suppose, is basically just a complete moron, or he's just out of it. He's a space case. There's not much going on with him. Well, it's that character archetype plays so well off of the other guy, who simultaneously wants to sort of protect this guy, sees a sort of moe in him, is clearly into him. By the end of the episode, you can tell he's falling in love with him. But he also has kind of a short temper, and he's kind of aggressive in the way that he speaks. But he's overall he's a nice guy. He wants to look out for this dude, and it's because the other character is so spacey that he is not easily pushed away by that aggression. He doesn't really register the way that he's being talked to as something to be afraid of, and that's why he's able to handle that kind of rough instruction, which is what makes them a good character combination. Then you got the other members of the band who are just a lot of fun. I like that they're older, and so they kind of communicate a little bit older, so, it's not just a bunch of high school kids. I like the overall feel of the show. I think that the writing is really strong, and that pretty much is what's carrying it, along with some pretty decent music. And the fact that it's just a little bit more serious about the music than, something like, say, K-On! So yeah, it's enjoyable so far. On Friday we had the third episode of Dr. Stone, which I continue to absolutely love. It wasn't as high impact an episode as episode 2, where we were still establishing, the main characters, the basics of what's going on in the setting. Now we're kind of moving into a first arc where our characters have to combat this villain that they've accidentally unleashed, who is just going around murdering people who are currently in stone form, and they want to stop his murder spree. And it's kind of like a bit of a gentleman's bout in a way. It's like both sides definitely want to win, even if they don't think the other person is necessarily like a bad guy. They just disagree fundamentally on what they want from the world, and those different perspectives cannot exist in the same space. I love the whole way the show handles its ideas. The fact that fucking Senku is like so excited about jumping 2 million years of evolution or whatever by the development of a gun. I don't remember if it was that much evolution, but jumping way ahead in civilization by being able to create this thing, and that he calls it mankind's greatest invention, the gun, which is great. And of course we have Yuzuriha finally healed from the stone. I like the way that her character is handled, where she is, just written in we'll call it a convenient way, just as a way to get her right into the action and be the kind of character who could roll with the punches as we go forward, not have to have things too much explained to her, but also be the person who, finally, more so than the other two guys who are both insane in their own ways, is able to actually appreciate the gravity of the situation and have it really sink in what has gone on here. She's also really fucking hot, and I would love to see her getting railed by Taiju. It would be a good time. I also finally noticed that in the ending theme, they show a village on an island that I assume is going to be what they set up before too very long, and I can't wait to see that because it looks awesome. Friday also had episode 2 of Accelerator, which is very dumb, but I still kind of enjoy it. It continues to be, in the Index tradition, utterly insane. It continues to just be throwing as many concepts at you as possible, but the actual moment-to-moment action is bad. I would say, the very start of the episode has this really dark and cool opener where this girl jumps off a bridge trying to kill herself, and she fails, but the team that comes to rescue her is actually a bunch of bad guys who then drown her in the mask that they've got on her, so that they can use her corpse to power this mech that runs on escalating the Esper energy of dead Espers or whatever the fuck. Again, this is what I watch Index for, is concepts like that, which is cool as shit. But the actual fight between Accelerator and this robot is each of them standing still in place for 5 minutes while the robot shoots big energy beams, and they are ineffective because Accelerator is extremely overpowered. So you're never going to have a sense of danger unless we can establish a villain who is really fucking powerful and could actually put up a fight against Accelerator, who is unambiguously the strongest Esper in the city. So yeah, the fight is really stupid, and his voice acting, I've always hated Accelerator's voice. It is so over the top, scenery chewing, just obnoxious, edgelord, cringeworthy, just all of this kind of worked when he was a villain, but when he's the hero and you have to hear him cackling in this so annoying of a voice, it's hard to even want to be on his side because it's so obnoxious. But nonetheless, again, the cooler scenes, the cooler concepts made me want to keep watching, at least for now, even if I think the show is corny and bad, but it's my type of trashy popcorn entertainment. It might go the way of Heavy Object, where I just kind of watched 3 or 4 episodes and then gave up. It doesn't have as many just stupid things as that show did yet. Though it is hilarious that Accelerator is actually reading Heavy Object in various scenes. Yeah. Well, I'll give it a shot for now. And lastly, of course, the Saturday show is Lord El-Melloi II's Case Files Rail Zeppelin Grace Note. That's the full title. Jesus Christ. This episode was actually really great. I think this was the one that solidified my interest in the series because it developed Waver much better as a character and showed that he did not, in fact, just completely change over the last 10 years, or however long, as the last episode had suggested. We see him sort of crack a bit more and be more of his former self, have this sort of brattiness, this tendency towards jealousy, this fact that he basically goes on a temper tantrum because the coffee shop that he likes had to shut down because of electrical issues, and he spends the episode just trying to solve the problem with this coffee shop because he doesn't want to be ornery all the time and take it out on his students. So this is much more so the Waver Velvet we knew from the original show, and it's clear that he's sort of forcing himself to be a more mature adult person, that this is something he's had to put on in order to become the man he wants to be. It's not his natural state, and that is still lying in there, for moments when he's sort of ticked off about something. So yeah, instantly made me more care about the character than I did in the last episode, more see him as the natural extension of Fate Zero. And it was also just nice to get a fun kind of just little adventure story, something that wasn't too serious, introducing some of his students and their powers. So we've got a bit more of a cast going on. We understand Gray's place amongst other people a little bit better, and all of the characters who are established had very strong personalities. We've got the bratty kid who's seems to be extremely talented but really stupid. So even though he has really high level magic powers, he's just kind of adult. He kind of reminds me a bit of Rundle House Code from Log Horizon, but a more powerful version. Then you have the werewolf kid who's just obsessed with Gray, but he can't get too close to her, and even though he's completely in love with her, but she interprets it as I can't tell if he has a problem with me or something. So we know about her now that she's basically really dense, doesn't really understand human emotions all that well. So those are sort of the main three classmates we get to know. And then another one who's a computer guy who has this 3-monitor setup. I don't know what year this show takes place in. I'm sure somebody can answer me in the comments because I don't know my Fate time periods that well. But I think it's probably not current day, considering that they're so excited over the setup. I mean, if Fate Stay Night took place in the year when it came out, and this is a few years before that, it would probably be 2000 or so. Which would make sense with the excitement over the setup that he had at the time, which if that's what they were going for, is a neat detail to get you into the time period. But yeah, overall, very fun episode. Again, I like how they play with the whole history of magic, how so far each of the villains is basically just a boomer who can't adapt to the times. It's basically boomer magicians trying to hold on to what they had when they were younger, not being able to adapt. I don't know if that's going to be a consistent theme throughout the show, but we've had that as both of the first two mysteries that we've solved so far. So that's interesting if it's going to be the case, and the way the show uses lore, I think, is just really well done. When the one student was sniffing out Gray, I was watching this with May, and she was like, is he a werewolf or something? And then sure enough, he turns out to be a werewolf. And we didn't need an explanation of what werewolves are or anything like that. It made me curious because it was interesting in the moment. And, I am interested in the character because of the way he's written, that I would actually go look up what is the deal with werewolves in the Fate universe. More and have a better time watching a good show and then wanting to go investigate more about it than if they were just dumping that information on me in the show, in which case I probably wouldn't care. So, yeah. Well written, well done. I'm enjoying it. This has been a pretty good season so far, all things considered. So, I'm looking forward to covering the next week. I guess I basically just did a whole week, didn't I? Maybe this will have to be a weekly show. I mean, a bunch of these I could have talked about on the day of. Again, I was just kind of held up. but we'll see what happens. I'll just basically do it every time there's enough that I have to say about the shows that I've watched. Don't forget to support me on Patreon if you really love what I do, and stick around on the channel. Make sure you ring the bell if you subscribe, because my channel does not always have its videos pushed to all of its users. Sometimes people just get unsubbed at random. I was told today, somebody said, yeah, I just randomly was unsubbed to both your channels and I don't know why. So make sure you're subbed. Keep up with the Patreon. Keep up with all the stuff. Watch the Whirling Dervish podcast, because it is lit and insane. And that's it. See you in the next one.